Welcome to Let's Chat with Julie Lewin and the Spirit Talk series, where we delve into the realms of intuition, energy, and spiritual awakening, uncovering the wisdom that resides within each of us and the universe at large. I'm your host, Julie Lewin. Thank you for joining us. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Chat with Julie Lewin. And today I have a beautiful woman, Shelli Roberts, and she is in West Virginia.
North Virginia.
North Virginia. I didn't get it right. I knew that it was Virginia. So I'm so delighted to be able to have this chat with you, Shelli, because I just think what you're doing is awesome, and I think we're going to have a really, really super chat. So let me formally introduce you, and then we can dive into a juicy conversation. So Shelli is a life alchemist. I love that. And a transformational energy healer, which is what I do as well. And a success strategist who works with awakened souls who are feeling the call to be, do, and have more out of their life. And I'm sure most people can relate to that. And her life experience of trauma and inner healing uniquely enables her to empower, guide, and foster healing for spiritual individuals on this same recovery journey so they may understand themselves in new ways that will enable them to become more successful, more joyful, and to unleash their passion into all aspects of their lives a lot faster than she did. So let's get into this conversation, Shelli, because look, let's face it, most people have trauma in their lives. But what I'm learning is that people don't realize the full impact of trauma and how it sets up behavioral patterns and trigger episodes, and kind of like it shields people from their true nature. Is that a good way of saying it?
It's like putting the crazy mirror at the fairgrounds in front of you, and seeing, and it just squiggles it all up, right? And you think you're looking at your true who you are in the mirror, but you don't see that it's really had those kind of impacts to who you are as a person and how you relate to the world and other people. It does have deep impacts, and you're right. A lot of people, they just don't realize how it is affecting them and their beliefs and how they show up as people in the world. And then ultimately, the success that they're having, the prosperity that they're having, everything. It impacts everything.
We're recording this on your Lionsgate, which is the 8th of the 8th, 2024, which is an 888. That was my day yesterday because we're now in 9 August, and I don't normally do dates on the podcast, but I think it's important because this is a special day.
It is. And we started at 8 p.m. my time too.
Oh, goodness.
It's a four-way whammy today. Right now, there's some power here, lady.
That's wild. And so I wanted to talk briefly about my mum passed on the 1st of August 2020. And at the beginning of that week, so what's that, like 2 weeks ago, maybe 10 or 11 days ago, I just didn't feel myself. I was flat. I didn't want to do anything. I wasn't sick, but I wasn't sparky, if that makes sense. And I thought, what's wrong with me? Like, what's going on? And it was the 31st of July, and I went, it's the anniversary of Mum's passing tomorrow, and I feel grief physically. Like, I wouldn't say I feel it so much emotionally, but physically. And as soon as I realized that, I started to feel better. I started to get my spark back. And I'm just wondering how many other people have those body memories of trauma. They don't link to an episode, and then they just think that they're depressed.
So the answer is everybody stores their trauma in their body. Science
Yeah.
is proving it. And the example that you gave about shifting when you realized it is the nature of energy work. It in its simplest form, it is bringing the awareness of what's going on inside of you, whether it's emotionally or physically, because I believe science is going to eventually determine that all of our ailments are emotionally related ultimately.
Yeah.
They're getting there. They're getting there.
They are. They are. Yeah.
But we have science that demonstrates that the body holds your trauma in your very cells and DNA. And I would take it as a spiritual person, I would take it one step further and say, we brought it with us in our incarnation, in our DNA from our ancestry and our past lives as well. So there's a lot of junk in the trunk that we're bringing into this lifetime. But I also believe we're here to heal it and to transmute it into wisdom and then release it so that we're not carrying all that junk in the trunk that weighs us down. But you're right when you pointed out that a lot of people don't even realize what that kind of thing is going on. The first thing you have to do is realize, and then you're in a place where you can do something about it, because we don't have to live this way. That's so important. We don't have to live this way. People just try to, they tolerate and try to get through minute by minute or day by day, and they tolerate. You have to tolerate. And when you recognize that and it puts you in a place of empowerment where you can actually do something empowering for yourself to elevate yourself out of that place, especially for people who have had deep trauma or prolonged trauma. It's incredibly empowering to recognize that, and that there are people who can help them make those shifts.
Yeah, which is the work that Tash and I do together as well. And as you're talking, I'm getting this comparisonitis thing coming up where people view what's going on outside of them and they go, oh, who am I to complain about and they diminish their trauma, because that person over there, their trauma is way worse than mine, so I've got nothing to complain about. And they actually suppress and lock in deeper whatever their trauma is. And there's no gauge on trauma, right? The body feels what the body feels, the mind feels what the mind feels, the emotions are like, I work with 7 bodies. I don't know how many bodies you work with. I work physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, aurically, energetically, and etherically. They all hold trauma. If people, what's the word, that invalidate their trauma and make it smaller than the impact, then how can they work through it? Like, they're denying it.
Right. They're denying it, and in that burying it'll turn into something else, because you store the energy, it's still there, right? Even if you're not acknowledging it, even if you're repressing it, it gets lodged, right?
Yeah.
And then, oh, by the way, you bring that forward into your next life. And so what we're not taught is how to process it, right? And how to release it and transmute it. We're only taught that, sissies cry and don't cry in public because it makes you look weak. What appearances matter, and so don't do this and don't do that. Sit in the corner. You should be seen and not heard. All of those are traumas, because we are here. We are meant to be seen and heard. We are meant to show up as our authentic soul selves in this lifetime. And all of those are traumas. Now, maybe not as great as maybe somebody who's gone, lost their home or their families due to fire or, some horrible thing like that. God forbid, and bless them if they have. But it's still trauma. It's still trauma. And what I'm finding in the work that I'm doing is when you go into your Akashic Records, a small thing that feels small in this lifetime because of comparisonitis or whatever can trip you up. It can trip you up. It's still a block to like being able to move forward in some way, maybe a related way in this lifetime. And literally I've had to go in and release those tripwires and heal them and bring them to neutral so that I could learn the wisdom and move on from it. And literally that kind of a clearing. And I know that you experienced this with the body, medical intuitive body dynamics too. It's like, okay, so your inner world, you're trying to be successful in something, and this, I just can't get past this. I don't know what this thing is. I can't get past it. It's typically not in your logical front of mind thing. It's something that you have pushed back. Maybe don't even remember, right? Or it could be in a past life that you wouldn't have known anyway until you went in and took a look and made an intention to release it. And it's an easy process. It's quick and it's effective as all get out.
So back in the 1990s, so we're going back like 30 years now, Shelli. Back in the 1990s, and I can't remember which year it was, maybe 96, 97, like we didn't have the internet like this. We didn't have an access to knowledge like we have now. We had books. That was it, kind of. You've got a book. Somebody sent me, because I'd appeared on the TV show The Extraordinary in 1994. Oh my goodness, today I think is the anniversary, 30 years of me being on that show. You know, thousands of people wrote to me, but this one young fellow sent me a copy of his book by Lee Everett, and she was Kenny Everett's wife, and she did regression work with the stars, and they filmed it, and it was a TV show. But she wrote this book about regression, and I read that book, and I did not want to send it back, but I sent it back, and I taught myself how to do my own regression. So I was kind of the facilitator and the participant in my own regressions. That's all I did for myself that year, is I did my own regressions. I can remember those lives like I can remember what I did yesterday. And, you know, as I did those regressions, I cleared the blocks. Like I cleared the whatever was holding me back. And as I was doing the regression and I was observing this scene unfold, I would ask myself, so what's the learning here? What can you take back from this learning back to this life so you can move forward, so you can transform that block or trauma? Some of it was like pretty hardcore stuff that I was witnessing. And it's so interesting that you really sparked my mind, because I've not heard many people say we bring trauma, our trauma, through the soul. So talk to me some more about that, because I have experienced that, but I'd like to hear your take on it.
So if you are familiar, your listeners are familiar with the Akashic Records at all, it's an energetic record, if you will, in the etheric realm of all of our experiences collectively here, all of consciousness. It's not just humans here on Earth. And so an etheric record of all the beliefs, all the thoughts, all the inspirations, all the experiences, all the words said, all the emotions felt, everything. And you're able to go into your own records to do exactly what you're describing. You can either relive those experiences or not. You don't have to. And you're right. Some people have had very, very traumatic experiences. Frankly, if I had been drawn and quartered or dragged behind a horse and pulled in, my limbs off, I wouldn't want to relive that. But just saying. But you can still, that would be pretty traumatic. And maybe a fear of horses is what comes forward, or a deep a deep hatred of a particular organization that caused
Mhm.
that particular event or whatever, that you don't even know where it comes from in this
Yeah,
lifetime.
you just have that you're repelled by it.
Yes, yeah. So you
Yeah.
don't know. You just know that you're afraid of the dark deeply, or the
Mm,
water, or fill in the blank. Um, and so literally you're by going into that etheric record of your own, and you can
mm,
broaden it into more generic or generalized things for all of humanity and common belief constructs. But focusing just on you and you as a person, a human in this lifetime, and any healing that a client might want to do, you
mm.
can pinpoint, and there may be more than one. I mean, and here's the thing that is disturbing to me. If you don't address it in one lifetime, it's going to be a repeating pattern throughout the lifetimes until you do address it.
Correct.
So I fully believe that those those challenges or those traumas or those things that have been repressed over and over and over again, we think are just a part of us and that we can't do anything about them.
Mm.
Well, the truth of the matter is they are a part of us. They don't have to be, and you can
Yeah,
do something about them. And when you
exactly.
do, you clear a
Yeah.
space for the love and light that is meant to be your experience in this lifetime. And so, why people aren't doing more of it, I do not know. I think they just
Yeah,
don't know what's available to them when they do.
I agree, and I think that that's one of the things that the internet has done is it's accelerated transformational um, growth or personal development in a way that it hasn't ever before. And the last 30 years or 25 years has seen an explosion of people wanting to understand themselves at a deeper level, wanting to know more. And that's why we do what we do to help people do that. And the thing that is probably key is to have a deep curiosity
Yeah.
about about life, but also about what makes you or me do what we do in the moment. Like have a curiosity about why you make the decisions or the choices that you make, even if they're kind of not trauma based. What makes you make your choices? Because that's going to help you understand who you are
Yes.
more
Yes.
than anyone telling you your
Yeah, that
XYZ.
discovery can be pretty fun. I had an experience that was pretty profound when I discovered my human design chart and then the gene
Yeah,
keys chart. Yes,
yeah,
that
yeah.
was, I was like, okay, I already believed that everything is energy, but what I didn't realize is that you've got an energetic imprint that's uniquely yours.
Hmm.
And activation paths, once you're aware of them, you can focus on, okay, I want some healing done over here because my relationships aren't where they need to be. And so I'm going to
Yeah.
work on this Venus path on my gene keys chart to
Hmm.
foster the development and the self growth to raise your vibration in these particular areas. And when you
Mm,
do, guess what? You become more of who you are.
yeah. And so, may I ask what your human design is?
I'm a manifesting generator. As a strategist, that shouldn't surprise you.
So,
um,
my daughter Tash is a manifesting generator. So,
Yes.
and
Yes.
what are your numbers?
I have the incarnation cross of oppression, which basically tells you what my life story has been.
Right. So, I'm a generator, 2
Mhm.
4. And so, Tash is a manifesting generator, 6 2.
Oh, you're
So,
talking
our
about the profile number. So I'm a
profile,
4 1.
yeah,
So
you're
investigative,
4
yeah, or 1 4, one of those. Anyway, 4 1, I think.
1. Yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah.
the investigator in me, I love the deep research and digging into like details and how things are connect and how they work and all that like engineering kind of thing. That's not engineering; it's human engineering.
Yeah.
That's why I was like delving into the Akashic Records and regression therapy, and I think I know the book that you were talking about was pretty profound. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, she was the one that I read, and it might be the same one. I don't remember the name of it or the author, but she was talking about her practice, which was to help people who had fears that they didn't know where they came from and that they were debilitating in their life, right?
Yeah.
So when
Yeah.
she learned how to do regression therapy and took them back, she found that there was a link, indelible link to something that
Yeah.
happened in a past life that they're bringing
Oh,
forward. And so, yeah,
absolutely.
and
Yeah.
scientifically demonstrated time and time and time and time again. And then
Yeah.
started to develop a paradigm where she could identify complexes,
Mhm.
like psychological complexes, and draw the link back to the emotional trauma that was creating those complexes. So the mind emotion connection, and then into the body. That
Yeah.
blew my mind. That was so profound. And that, I think, is what sparked me to delve more deeply, because that
Yeah.
realization is, dang, if you can get to the core issue in the emotions or the past life, you just
Correct. Yeah.
unlocked everything up to this moment, whether it's emotional patterns or health issues or whatever that's tied to it, is so profound.
Yeah. And um, it's incredible when you're doing regression work and you witness something,
Mm.
because you are the witness of the regression,
Yeah.
and you actually see more than okay, I'm just going to say what I'm hearing the words that you see more than the memory. So we hold memory a scene. That's, let's say, as in this physical life, we see it through one lens. But when you're doing regression, you're observing the whole scene, not one lens of the scene. And
Right.
even just witnessing the whole scene from, I always see it from above, not from a particular lens. It's almost like I have this overview, and I'm getting goosebumps as I'm saying that. Sometimes that's all the healing that you need. And I'm going to share a story. I had a complex relationship with my dad, and I felt that he only ever wanted to talk to me if it was to criticize me. Now, whether that was his perspective is a whole other story, but that was my perspective. And I thought all I wanted was for him to be proud of what I did, but I never got that from him. But my mum said, "Oh, Julie, he's so proud of you. He talks about you to anyone who will listen, but he couldn't say he was proud of me to me." And so I had a complex dynamic with him, and he died in 1999, and I felt relieved that I didn't have to, you know, be in his physical world anymore. And then I was in an incredible spiritual incubator for 3 years that started in 1999. And I was sitting with my teacher. It was late at night, and seriously, this happened with my eyes open. You know, if you're in a dark room with the photographer's got the strings across the ceiling and they're hanging all their
Mhm.
photos
Yeah.
in the developing room.
Yeah.
It was like a string appeared in the lounge room, and all these photos were hanging down of all these different scenes from my life that had like a little movie going in each scene, and it was moving across the lounge room like it was on a pulley. And oh, is that what was actually happening there? Is that what was actually happening there? Is that what was actually happening there? And that complex relationship with my dad was completely healed in that experience from trauma, whatever.
Mm.
It was completely benign after that, and
So
that happened spontaneously, but if you could speak on that, that would be
I want to bring you back to a point that you raised earlier and highlight that the awareness of a broader perspective that wasn't colored by emotional trauma in the in the perspective that you had in the here and now, right?
Yeah.
So when you raised above the emotional trauma and were able to look at it from an observer's standpoint without the fairground warped mirror, lens that we wear here through the trauma lens, yes, it's a very different, it's a soul's level perspective. They don't have that warped trauma lens. They see a bigger perspective from the soul level, and so the energetics of it are very, very different. They're very different, and that's why it's so healing to be able to tap into that perspective and that energy of what was really going on, because that realization is incredibly healing. That alone is incredibly healing.
And you know what? No one in the room actually said anything to me about it. So all that healing happened as the witness.
Yeah. Yep.
And so this is what I want to say to everyone. If you can learn to be the witness, you will have transformational shifts in your life. Be the witness. And what that is, okay, do you know about the drama triangle by Cartman?
I'm familiar. But go ahead and explain it.
Yeah, so Cartman created the drama triangle concept. I think it was with the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And what he said was, in any drama, there are three sides. There's the rescuer, there's the victim, and the perpetrator or persecutor. I mix those two words up. I don't know what the real word is. Let's say persecutor. And so if you're in a conflict situation or in a drama situation, the best way to transmute it, transform it, stop the pattern, is to become the observer, which is what I was just talking about before, the witness. And ask yourself, what role am I playing?
Mm-hmm.
Because you will be playing a role. It'll be the persecutor, the victim, or the rescuer. And the thing is that in any drama, you can actually play all of those roles at different times.
Yeah.
And so when you become the observer, you're no longer in the drama, and then you can become the creator of what you want as the observer. And you know why? Because you're not in the emotion of it.
Yes.
You've risen above the emotion.
And energetically, that emotion feeds off of the other emotions in the drama. And so it just gets more and more and more and more, angry or frustrated or unheard or whatever the story is in that interaction. It just gets more and more and more, which may not be healthy, right? It may not be healthy at all. So rising above it and not being a part of feeding the energy, giving it more and more energy through your interaction or engagement or speaking or gossiping around it or whatever it is. You're absolutely right. It neutralizes it. And I would add, you have the opportunity at that point to raise the vibration and then re-engage and make it a neutral or turn it into something positive, find the win-win. You can re-engage at a different level and shift the whole dynamic by doing so. And that is a powerful realization, that you have the ability. You don't have to react to everything. You can step out of it and then step back in a different way that'll shift the entire dynamic and the whole experience around it.
Exactly. And the key there is to actually witness what your role is, like, and be honest with yourself and say, oh, yeah, I did do that. And when you acknowledge that your part in the drama, you can then dissolve that. You can go, oh, yep, that was me. I own that. And it changes the energetic frequency of the whole situation when you acknowledge your role in the drama. And
Agree.
I guess that's where the, apologies and forgiveness and that part of our culture is valuable. And you're not apologizing and forgiving for the other person, you're actually doing it for yourself.
Yeah, that's huge right there. It's
Yeah,
so freeing and releasing when you're able to let all of that go instead of holding on to it. Yeah.
correct. Because if you hold on to that, that's what you're pushing down,
Mm-hmm.
and that stays in your cells lifetimes if you don't figure out how to transmute it.
Yeah.
And look, if I knew this 40 years ago, what a different life I would have had, right?
Yes.
And
So
so
true.
my life, I just pushed it all down. And guess what, guys? I ended up with 5 throat diseases.
Mm.
What does that say? I had
Well,
my
look at you
tonsils
now as
out.
a podcast host. Clearly, you
Correct.
were able
I
to
had 5
transmute all that.
pushed it all down and rotted everything inside of me that could be cut out and destroyed.
Mm.
So I used to always have a sore neck. And, even today, I get in the shower and I put my head back and I go, it is so wonderful to not have a sore neck.
Ah.
And I just go, how magnificent is that? And also, I'm speaking like, guys, I lost my voice for a year. I
Mm.
couldn't speak.
Wow.
And so that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this podcast, is because when I got told by the doctor, you may never speak again, I went home and I lay in bed and I said, God, if you give me back my voice, I promise I'll share what I've learned. And my voice has just got stronger and stronger over the last 23 years. I lost my voice in 2000. And
That's
here
amazing.
we are. Here we are.
Yeah.
And I just like the rhythm of life. Shelli, I don't know if you like the rhythm of life. I don't like structure. And so I'm kind of a bit of a free spirit, and I just like to go with the rhythm. And I find that now that I've embraced that, my life is happier, I'm more joyful, I laugh every day. I like the first 20 years of my adult life, I don't think I laughed at all.
Yeah. I would add too that most people live in worry, anxiety, and fear.
Mm,
And you've been able to release that. And in doing so, we're able to clear your body of all of that. Um, there's physical reactions and damage that's caused by holding a state of anxiety and worry and fear, even or stress, overwhelm, all of it, right? You're very constricted when you're in that state, especially for long periods of time. And when you're
yeah,
able to rise above it all and let it go like you were,
yeah,
it is incredibly freeing. And
yeah,
people don't know until they do it. You don't know how incredibly open and freeing that it is until you actually take the steps to do it. But it's
that's right.
it's a beautiful place to be, very liberating.
It
Even if you're
is.
not a free spirit, if you like structure and rules and that kind of thing, it still elevates you to a place where you feel like you're free to be who you are within that
Mm,
structure that makes you comfortable, which is great. You're not
yeah,
worried about what Sally beside me is thinking about me, right? And
right.
cowering in a corner trying to be a perfectionist.
Yeah,
You don't have to deal with any of that. You let it all go and you're absolutely perfectly okay being who you are authentically. And
yeah,
I'm at a point, and I know you are too. I can't be anybody but myself at this point.
yeah,
I can't even try, right?
yeah,
Wouldn't want to and wouldn't want to try. I love the person I've become. And I
yeah,
honor the journey of trauma that it took to get here. It wasn't fun, but it's brought me to this place here and now, and you too. the journey makes us who we are, and
Correct.
all of that healing and releasing is gonna pay dividends going forward in ways that I can't even imagine right now, I'm sure.
Exactly. And I was just sitting here thinking, I wouldn't change anything.
What a
I would not
blessing.
change anything
Wow.
about my journey. And that's for real. Like, for real, I wouldn't change anything because I really love who I am today.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
I had taken different turns, I wouldn't be who I am today. And so,
You would have your core self, but the level of experience and wisdom that you've gained by overcoming everything that you have adds a level of depth and richness that you definitely wouldn't have had if you hadn't gone
yeah,
through all of that. So, it's part of our here on Earth School. Here on
like
Earth
that.
School, it's part of a journey. That's why we come, so that we can evolve, so that we can
Yeah,
heal, so that we can grow, so that we can help others do the same. That's why we're here.
that's right. And it's such an adventure.
Can be.
And
Yeah, can
I
be.
say to people, I live an ordinary life in an extraordinary way.
Love that.
And so I'm not saying that I wake up every day and I feel fantastic. I woke up this morning and I was thinking, do I cancel the podcast? Because I don't feel 100%. And then I went, no, Julie, just take a Panadol, which I did because I woke up with a headache. And I thought, no, do the podcast because you will feel better
Mm.
doing
Yeah,
the podcast.
yeah.
Because when I talk about this sort of stuff, it elevates my energy, right? And it elevates how I feel.
I
And
love
so
that.
I was good with that. But, not every day is a great day, but I don't, what's the word? I don't stop doing what I want to do because I don't feel 100%. I think that's probably the key for
We
how I
think
live
it.
my ordinary life.
Yeah, in an extraordinary way. And
Yes,
plus you're open to see and experience the everyday miracles that are right in front of us. I mean,
exactly. Oh my
when our
goodness.
head is down and we're looking at our feet as we're walking down the street or the hallway or whatever, we're not noticing the birds singing and the raindrops pattering on leaves and everyday beauty. We don't
Yeah,
see it because we're all in our worry and our fear and our anxiety and whatever else is going on inside our heads. So when we can release all of that, we're now suddenly open to see the beauty in every day and the miracles that are right in front of us. And that is, like you said, living an ordinary life in an extraordinary way. Very
yeah,
freeing, very
it
freeing.
is. It is. And so how would you describe how you live your day?
So I was struggling in my day job more than once, and I knew that how you start your day sets the tone for the entire day. And so when I was waking up in the morning dreading what I was going to be confronted with or what I thought, worried about, fearing that I was going to be confronted with, it didn't make for a great day. And
Mm,
when I realized that, I'm like, okay, well, what are you going to do about it? What's going to make you shift your perspective so that you're not in this place of dread right when you get up in the morning?
yeah,
And to your point, doing the things that light you up. And so I tried things like exercise to get out of the doldrums and get my mind on a place other, my body, other than on
mm,
the place of the things that I was thinking were going to happen at work.
yeah,
Sometimes they did, sometimes they didn't, but you're still sitting in dread, right? So it's all about the mindset, what you're bringing
yeah.
to yourself. And then I also started using fairy tarot cards, and it's a particular there's a deck that I use that is just so light and It's called Fairy Blessings. I'm not gonna. I'll let you look it up, folks. I'm not gonna plug it, but it was such a incredible experience to pull a card in the morning and have an uplifting blessing message of how to think about the energy of the day. And my question to the deck was, if your folks practice tarot or oracle cards, you hold an energy or an expectation or a question. So I asked, and I pulled a card. I asked, what is the energy of the day that I'm walking into, right? Not inside me, but the energy of the day, and which is similar, but not exactly the same. And I got a fairy blessing, and it was so sweet, and fairies are so light and just so well meaning and so sparkly, and it just made me smile, and that gift I carried with me through the entire day. That and bringing in Archangel Gabriel and Archangel Michael on either side of me to guard me throughout the day, protect me and guard me, and knowing that you're supported that way in every moment, every situation, every email, every phone call, every visit to your desk, all of it. You're like, wow, I've got archangels who have got my back. So there's nothing that's going to happen to me today that is going to, topple me or make me fearful or make me worry. I'm protected. I'm supported. And I have this beautiful fairy card that uplifts me in every moment that I think of it.
That's fantastic. And as you were saying all of that, I just got this kind of whoosh come through me that you are blessed.
Yes, truly.
So
We
it's
all
like
are.
living, but it's knowing that you are blessed.
Yes.
See, there's a difference. We're all blessed, but it's actually knowing that you are blessed. Whereas other people, they don't know that.
No.
So they're kind of like, well, how do I have that? And the thing is, and this is my perspective, if we want to change our outside world, you don't start changing the outside world situations or things. You actually work on your inside world.
Yeah.
And your inside world will inform the outside world. And that's how you change. And I went on retreat to the US in 2001. Literally, I bought my ticket to go the day before September 11.
Oof.
And everyone said to me, well, you're not going. And I said, yeah, I am going. And I went for a month on retreat. And before I went, I had spent 20 years, no, maybe 18, 19 years trying to change my husband. Because I thought if I could change my husband, my life would be better.
Yeah.
And the outcome of that retreat was the true, like in my heart realization, I can't change anyone. I can only change myself. And that's what I came home with, that frequency. Since 2001, my marriage has been amazing.
Yeah, well, absolutely. There's actually relationship coaches who focus on how we're thinking on the inside of us and how we are projecting our expectations on others and expecting them to meet us where we want them to be. And it doesn't work that way.
When I say it doesn't work out.
So when you realize that you're projecting your expectations on others and they're not meeting up to what you think it should be, then you're like, oh, wait a minute, that's all me. That's all me. So when you shift, when you shift where you're coming from and you're putting in you're maybe elevating instead of being resentful, being grateful. All of a sudden, how they relate to you shifts too, because guess what? Your words are kinder. Yeah, they want to be around you more.
It is different. Everything shifts.
Yeah.
And it's quite an extraordinary journey to go through, actually, and very humbling to realize that the problem was me.
Well, it takes two to tango, but I mean, you can shift.
It was my expectations.
Yeah, that's key.
it was the key. And and I just changed my expectations of how I wanted to live my life, as in, well, I just stopped trying to change him. I stopped trying to make him be interested in personal development. I stopped trying to make him be interested in my inner world. And I just lived my inner world. And I found other people to talk to about those things. And I really valued the things that he contributed to my world that I love. And so what happened was, and the clock's going off, the whole way I viewed my world, my inner world and my outer world changed.
And then your experience of the world around you changes. I will elevate that one more. I know we're at time, but I would say it's not just between people, it's our relationship to the future. Are we living in fear of the future? It's our relationship to money. It's our relationship to our work or our vocation or our contribution in the world. It's our relationship to our family lineage and how much we value our extended family in our lives. It goes on and on. And literally when you realize that you are the center of what you're experiencing in all of those arenas, how empowering is that to know that if you make the inner shifts, the things that you were striving for outside of you are suddenly within reach.
Exactly.
Truly.
I love that. I love that they are within reach, and it's truly humbling to experience that and be able to live. Look, I'm not saying I don't experience fear, because I do, but I experience fear when I forget what I know. Yeah.
I'm not surprised. As soon as you remember, you're like, wait a minute, why am I
That's
fearful of this? Yeah.
correct. That's
Yeah.
exactly right. And so you just said something really profound there, guys. Have a think about it. Because we all know stuff. We all know, but we forget. And it's about having, clues or reminders of what we know. And it might be that when we forget what we know, that we ask someone to remind us.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah. And you can return the favor when they're feeling low and down and forget themselves, for sure.
That's it. That's
Yeah.
it. And like Tash and I, we hear it in people's voices. We know when their energy hygiene is a bit murky, and we hear it in their voices, and we do it for each other as well. And Tash will go, Mum, do you think you've got an entity or negative energy or something? Because I can hear it or feel it. And so we've got something that we've created. So we actually do our own program for energy hygiene. And then I go, oh, now I feel better. Now I feel
Yes.
lighter. And
Yes.
it's pretty awesome. And I guess my thing is, everyone listening, take care of your energy hygiene. That's what I want to say in my wrap up. What do you want to say about
I would
how
say live
wrap up?
high vibe. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to take you back to what you just said and highlight that Tosh and this time brought it into your awareness. But the
Yeah.
minute that it's brought into your awareness, you can shift it. You can make a conscious
100%.
decision to shift how you're feeling and how you're thinking about a situation or a person or whatever it is. Do
Yeah.
it now. Practice it now. You are the
Exactly.
creator of your experience, and why
That's
not
right.
create something beautiful? Yes.
Exactly. Why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't
So,
you?
Shelley, how can people find you? I have totally loved this chat today, by the way.
Oh, it's been
How can
delightful, Julie. Thank you for having me. I would point folks to my website. It's joyfultransformation.life. I have a login page for courses. There's a couple free ones. And for your listeners, I'd love to offer 50% off using the code JulieChat.
Ooh,
Um,
nice. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. I'm adding courses all the time. They tend to talk about things like self-sabotage, touching base with your intuition and that kind of thing, how to overcome them using energy healing type modalities and techniques. It's all on your own kind of self-learning. So good stuff. If you don't feel comfortable working with a coach in those kinds of ways, the courses are powerful, and then always having a coach available if you feel like you need it. But I would say that is the best way. There's a lot of free resources on a free resources page as well. So I invite your listeners to take a look.
Thank you so much, Shelli. I absolutely have loved this chat. So I'm going to wrap up. Thank you guys for joining Shelli and I on this podcast today. We talked about lots of things, but the thing that I'm taking away is the transformation of witnessing ourselves and who we are. And once we recognize what we're doing, we then have the power to shift it, make changes, and we are the creators of our own universe. And so thank you, Shelli, for joining me. And if you love this podcast, wherever you listened or watched, please like, subscribe, share. The more people we reach, the more balance and harmony we can create in the world.
Yes.
And remember, transformation and change doesn't just happen on the podcast. It's a daily thing, and if you can step forward with courage and faith and hope, you can transform your life as well. So thank you. See you in the next one.